Welcome into Steelers Latest, your daily spot for all news and information related to your Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content to stay up to date with everything Steelers. But let's get this show rolling. PJ Watt, Mark Triboli has reported that contract has been offered to TJ Watt. The issue so far on why it hasn't been signed is because it doesn't reach the 160 million 4 year mark that the Miles Garrett deal did earlier this offseason. The expected value hasn't been released just yet on what the offer truly was. Was it close to the 160 million? Should we be upset with TJ? Should we be upset with the team? Questions still remain unanswered about that. But if I'm gonna be honest, I've been hounding this one. We need to get TJ signed. He's been everything for the Steelers since he's been on the team. He's been basically the best player of the team since he's shown up on day one. Definitely since year two, he's been the best player on the team. It feels like the team goes how TJ does. If TJ's balling out a game, the team's winning. If TJ gets hurt, has to leave a game early, more than likely we're losing that game. Without TJ Watt throughout his career, here in Pittsburgh when he's not playing, when he hasn't started a game. We're 1-10 without him. That's all I need to know about the TJ Watt effect to want him in town long term and for the foreseeable future. I don't see why 40 million is too high. I mean, I know that's a big chunk of change to be thrown at someone above the age of 30, but I think he's earned it. It's TJ. He's a Steeler for life. I can't picture him in any other jersey. Well, couldn't picture JJ in any other jersey, and then he ended up being a Cardinal at the end of his career. So you never know what's going to happen. More than likely, though, it seems like this deal is being worked on, is being negotiated as I speak right now. So hopefully, terms can be agreed upon before the season starts. Hopefully, here soon, and I can report in the next couple days that something happened and TJ signed his deal and everything's good, and we don't have to worry about TJ possibly leaving town at the end of next season. But let's keep this thing rolling. As on the previous football and podcast, Big Ben revealed what he thought about Kirk Cousins. We know Aaron Rodgers is more than likely going to be the person who comes to town, but what does seem to be the plan B, option B, is trading for Kirk Cousins. I see this rumor being thrown around everywhere also in the media world. But Kirk Cousins, I never liked him. Seems like Big Ben was on board at first. He said in the beginning of the offseason, I would have liked to see the trade happen earlier. But at this point, he thinks there should be no deal for Kirk Cousins since we've already hit that point where OTAs have started. The team's in the building now. It's a little later to bring in Kirk Cousins. I don't see why bringing him in now compared to earlier is that big of a deal compared seeing that we don't even have Aaron Rodgers yet, and that's supposed to be the guy, and I think Ben's basically on board with that. I know he's thrown a couple shots. He's a big Will Howard guy. I like to see it, but Will Howard definitely a 6 round pick. Definitely needs to develop. But I agree. You know me. I've been saying don't go after Kirk Cousins. I think he's way too expensive. I think the Falcons are going to try to get most of that deal traded away when they do trade him away. So really freaking expensive $20 million cap hit, and I think he's more over the hill than Aaron Rodgers at this point, also, which is, I know he's a couple years younger, but I do believe he is more over the hill than Rodgers is at this point in his career. And cheaper option, better option, Aaron Rodgers. It just doesn't make sense to go out and get someone like Kirk Cousins. But let's talk about a former quarterback from the Steelers, Russell Wilson, as he appeared on Carmelo Anthony's radio show, and he shed some light on what traits separate Mike Tomlin from the rest of the NFL head coaches and why he's such a staple in the league because of these three traits. The first trait he said was his work ethic. Mike Tomlin's in the building at 4:30 every morning, watching film, getting prepared for the day, drawing out plans for the day. We love to hear that as Steelers fans. That's what you hope out of your coach. I mean, to make it 19 seasons, you got to be doing something different than everyone else and showing up at 4:30 every morning. We appreciate that as fans. His ability to connect with his players was the second reason he said. He says he relates to everyone, dep- depending on not dependent on ethnicity or anything. He just is a very relatable guy. He's able to connect with anyone that comes into the locker room, any background that comes in the locker room. It's something not everyone has, but it seems like Mike Tomlin is able to build connections with all of his players. And you can kind of just tell by how the players rally around him, how they talk about him in media sessions, where like other coaches, you can just tell the locker room's lost. The players kind of control the whole scenario there. Where with Tomlin, he's the leader of the pack. And then the last one being the ability to embrace the noise. He doesn't run from the obstacles. Yeah, that's what he's preached his whole career, that running head on into adversity seems to be the Mike Tomlin way. He doesn't avoid anything. He's not afraid of anything. Mike Tomlin is as cool as a guy as it gets. He doesn't break under any pressure. And that is why Mike Tomlin is a great head coach. We love Russell Wilson, former Steeler, was only here for a year, but got to show him love because he is showing Mike Tomlin some love. And I know some of the people comment that Tomlin is over the hill, that Tomlin is mediocre. Mediocre Mike, I've seen that in the comment section below a couple times now. But there's a reason he's as consistent as it gets, and it's because of his ability to connect with everyone, to embrace the noise around him, and to work harder than anyone in the building or around the nation or any other team in the league. That's what you like to see from Mike Tomlin. But let's wrap up this show with some Monday morning comments, my favorite weekly segment. Let's start this one off with Flying Guillotines '09. If Rodgers doesn't sign, just let Mason run it. We know it's not going to be good, but don't see the need to throw away picks for Cousins. Save the picks and actually call it a rebuild next year. That sucks to say, but we need. We've been stuck for a few years now. I agree completely with Flying Guillotines. He is, yeah, Aaron Rodgers. I think that's the only addition at this point I'd be willing to make to the quarterback room. Like you said, Cousins, as I mentioned earlier, I think he's over the hill. I think he's going to be worth more than Aaron Rodgers. Bringing them in, he's going to cost us more. So I just don't see any benefit in bringing in someone like Kirk Cousins. I think Mason Rudolph can produce a season like Kirk Cousins could if we brought him into the system. But yeah, I think it's time to rebuild for the Steelers. We'll never have a rebuilding season because I think Tomlin's way too consistent. So it's gonna be nice to hold on to all our assets as much as possible, as many draft picks as possible, to possibly trade up next year in the first round and maybe land an Arch Manning or the LSU quarterback coming out next year. But let's move on to the second comment from Trey Thompson. He said it's time for Broderick Jones to man up and be a physical force like we all thought he'd be. And it best be time because if not, playing the blind side tackle is going to be brutal. Left tackle, he is this year. We moved him over. We didn't re sign Dan Moore after last season. And now Broderick Jones, it all depends on him. The life of our quarterback, Mason Rudolph, all depends on Broderick Jones and him finally stepping into the form. As you said, we all expected him to be. He was great at Georgia. I don't know what has happened in his first couple years as a pro, but hopefully this year he's able to put it all together and have a solid season, get the penalties down, get the sacks down, and have a great third year of his career. But let's finish this show up with a little bit of hate comment to my Jonnu Smith trade, how I talked about him last Friday. Preston Thomas, 746, said, what you said about Jonnu Smith makes zero sense. How are you not impressed with a tight end with 80 catches for 900 yards? That's lets us know you don't want him to be a Steeler. And to say that makes two to say that makes the two tight end set a little bit better is dumb. Shot to the heart. Shot to the heart, Preston. But it made sense in my head because we already have a starting tight end. So we don't need to be paying another guy starting quality money. Uh, Pat Fryermuth is the man at tight end. I don't think bringing in someone like Jonnu Smith really does benefit the tight end room, considering he'd be the number 2 guy. He wouldn't be getting full-time reps, but he'd be getting paid like a starting tight end at Pittsburgh if we were to trade for him. Also, the reason I'm not impressed by Jonnu Smith is, yes, he had 80 catches for 884 yards last year. But before that year, in his other 7 years in the league, his best season was 50 catches for 582. That was 2 years ago. Before that, all his seasons are below 40 catches. So I don't really put too much into one good season by a player, and it's in a pass-heavy system in Miami. So that's why he doesn't impress me too that much. You never hear Jonnu Smith being like, that guy's the one that's gonna change the game for us. If we were to go out and pick him up, he's gonna be the X factor of this offense next year. No, he's just an average player that can get the job done sometimes if you put him in the right positions, but he needs you to put him in the right positions. And an offensive coordinator like Arthur Smith, I don't think is going to do that too much. That's just the issue with bringing in someone like Jonnu Smith. Also, I just think if you let Darnell Washington get more receiving reps, get more targets in the passing game, I think he can definitely explode this year just because of the size, the frame on the guy lends him to be a great red zone threat this season if we decide to use that. But that is why I don't like the Jonnu Smith trade, and I hope that clears it up and makes it more reasonable that I don't want Jonnu Smith, because I just don't think he's a needle mover for the team, and we'd just be giving up assets to get someone that doesn't really add too much of a new factor to this offense. That's my thoughts on Jonnu Smith. This has been Steelers Latest. I've been your host, Cole Dennis, and I will see you tomorrow.